Well, good evening. It is a Thursday night, Veterans Day, and I am at Harry Myers Park and here for an event with the Republican Hispanic Club, and they are honoring veterans tonight here in Harry Myers Park. Unfortunately, the live production is not working, so I'm unfortunately not able to broadcast live. So this is a rebroadcast of a live event, and so I am going to be moving it into that room. We've been trying to get this working to go live, and unfortunately it hadn't happened. So we're gonna go ahead and move it over into the assembly where this event is taking place. So. Without further ado, here we
came back to this wonderful community. I've lived here longer than anywhere else in Texas, and they're going to bury me here. But so, good evening, everyone, and I hope you had a wonderful Veterans Day. And honored guests, so many to name here that I could go on and on. So I want to thank all of you, and especially the distinguished panel, for what it is that you do. Thank you so very much. And I'd like to publicly acknowledge and thank you, my fellow warriors, for our service to this great nation and the cause to defend our republic and our way of life. You know, I heard someone say in a conversation once that the swearing in process of our oath is like veterans that we wrote a blank check to America once, and we asked America to cash it any way they see fit. So I'm going to ask all the veterans to please stand up. Please stand up, all of you. Let's give them a round of applause. Please remain standing. Because when you took the oath to enlist or you swear allegiance to this country, did anyone ever ask you to give it back? No. So we're going to repeat that oath, and I want all of you here, my fellow Americans, to listen to the oath of enlistment that we take. So raise up your right hand, and repeat after me this oath of enlistment, and fill in your name appropriately. I. Your names? Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Or affirm.
Or affirm.
That I will support and defend.
That I will support and defend.
This Constitution of the United States.
This Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the same.
To the same.
And I will obey the orders of the President of the United States.
And I will obey the orders of the President of the United States.
And the orders of the officers appointed over me.
And the orders of the officers appointed over me.
According to the regulations.
According to the regulations.
Of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you again. Thank you. Our veterans today, ladies and gentlemen, that are with us here today and are no less heroic than the patriots that are serving today, whether you're in the armed forces or not. I tell my kids, only one of my 4 children has gone into the service. He spent 8 years in the Marine Corps and decided that he wanted a better life on the outside. That's fine. But my other children, I've always said, there's more than one way to serve your country. You can vote by all means, but get involved. Get involved. Get your children, speak to your children, talk to your kids, tell them the only way you're going to change the way this country's headed, it's not necessarily in the right direction, is to get involved. Get in the school board, vote, run for office, right, Bobby? Do whatever it takes to get involved. So in closing, I said I was going to make it short and sweet, right? I pray with you that God will continue to bless our nation, the great warriors past and present, and you, my fellow patriots. So thank you very much. God bless you. Was it sweet? Short? I saw her grabbing a book.
All right, so the next speaker, I'm Matt, and I need to give a shout out to the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association, to John Parigi, Sammy Walker, Ray Myers, and Tilly Perkins. They are now my new friends. They're here to support us. And I met this gentleman, Floyd McClendon Jr., at the meeting that they had about 3 Saturdays ago, and it was a very powerful meeting. And so if they want to say something, y'all are welcome to at the end. But Floyd, I was very, he was very honored that he gets to be here at our club. And again, it's called unity. It's working together. We've got to work together. And the time of working separately is gone. And so it's a scary world out there. And one of our 5 priorities is secure the border. And that's coming from a Hispanic club. Also, sanctity of life, First Amendment, Second Amendment. And so I'd like to now introduce Floyd. Was born and raised in the south side of Chicago, Illinois. For 25 years, honorably served as in the naval military, retired U.S. Navy SEAL. Upon retirement, he planted roots in the great state of Texas while maintaining operational readiness in the SEAL teams. Floyd is a motivational speaker for the Naval Special Warfare community. And so come up here, Floyd, and where are you? Oh, there you are.
Edna set me up. Yeah, I have myself on 10 minutes. I absolutely appreciate it. So good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I want to start out to let you know that what you see and what you hear, I can't take credit for. It's because God has placed people and the organizations into my life for me to be present in your company today. I've never done this story before, so I want to share my life. It's called the Awakening of Call to Service, and it started my 7th year in the Navy. I was 25 years old, so I enlisted at 18, and I began to serve, but it hadn't clicked yet in my mind consciously. And the mere circumstances of signing a contract, going to boot camp, and learning my profession, that was the beginning. But I just didn't understand the depth. So my successes, when I decided to join, when I decided to become a Navy SEAL, I started to, tell my family and friends. And to my astonishment, not too many were pleased or supportive. That was a success for me. In first phase, I'm a 15-foot section of the pool, and I'm starting to need air because I'm on my 4th knot and it's not going so well. So I asked my instructor, hey, can I go up to the top to get some air? He said, absolutely. Next thing I know, I'm pinned to the side of the pool and I'm being slapped to consciousness because I had no idea that I had passed out and floated back down to him. That was a success for me. Another one was I jumped into a 50-meter swim. And as soon as I jumped in and did a maneuver, I made a mistake and blew out all my air. And I knew I was in trouble. But I said, well, let's see how far we get. So I went down halfway, turned around, pushed off, and then that's when your body starts to tell you, like, hey, we need to get up to the surface and get some air. And I was like, let's push it some more. Well, next thing you know, I'm pinned up to the side of the pool again by an instructor. And I looked back at him and I asked him if I passed in very colorful words. He said, yeah, you did. Get your out the pool.
that was a success for me. Second phase, 9-foot section of the pool. And this is where you simulate a surf hit, meaning if you're in the surf and you get caught up in the wrong way, it's going to turn you and flip you and slam you on the ground. And you still have to have your wits about you to be able to grab your equipment and your breathing apparatus to be able to breathe. So they simulate that in a 9-foot section of the pool. And it's an escalation. So I'm toward the end, and I know I'm toward the end, and the problems are getting harder and harder because the instructor will come and they'll hit you and they'll pull off your tanks, they'll pull off your fins and masks, and they'll tumble you and, just kind of beat you up a bit. Nothing too serious. But I can't fix this problem that I'm having. So I had a couple choices. I could bolt to the surface, which potentially I'd get a gas embolism and kill myself, or I can give him the nod to say, hey, I quit, or I can continue. Well, the next thing I know, I'm being pulled out the pool and by several instructors that I come to as they're getting me out the water, and I say, hey, I'm okay, and then I black out, and they put me on the side, and they do a neurological test, and an hour later, they put me back in the pool to take the test. That was a success. I get to the platoon, and I'm having trouble with free fall. I just can't fly in the air. I mean, I have long limbs, arms, legs. It's just absolutely unbelievable that I just cannot control these limbs going so fast through the air. So I'm in literally, I had to go to the school 3 times. So this is my 3rd time at the school, and I'm coming in, and this is my first time where I'm flying in to land by myself. And you have a walkie-talkie right there at your chest to where the instructors will tell you like when to pull the brakes so you can slow down. And I'm like, I've been here 2 times before. I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to listen to them. Well, it just so happens that as I'm coming in, I say, well, yeah, I better listen to them. But it's spotty. I can't really hear them. And I see the ground coming real fast, and I say, well, I should pull the brake. Slam! Into the ground. So my feet hit first, then my knees, then my head. That was a success. So you might want to ask yourself, like, why would this individual want to be so successful in this manner? And it plays into once you get to the SEAL teams, a lot of times you pair up, with a swim buddy. So you're literally, 30 feet underwater, it's pitch black, and you're about to put a mine on the ship, and it's just you and him, and you have to look in their eyes, and they have to look at yours to see like where you're at mentally, physically. And it's all about understanding that you are there to serve this individual next to you to make sure that they live. But it goes even deeper because now you have teammates in other places of this ship that are doing the same thing, and now you want the mission to be successful as a team. And if that's successful, then your team is successful. The Navy is successful. Our country is successful. You are successful. So it was about service, but going through those successful moments, that's what taught me what service was really about. And during this time of the year, it's very, very tough for me now because I've been out for 4 years. So now I'm getting to relax and think about all these successful moments that I've had in my life with my teammates and the great things that we've done and our brothers and sisters have done, but not only during my time, but in the past. And it really, really affects me emotionally, which is absolutely strange. My wife, she makes fun of me all the time because that's the only time she really gets to see me cry. The American people say thank you for your service, and most of us will tell you, we don't really need you to, tell us thank you, because that's not what we're in it for. We're in it for each other, first and foremost. We're in it for our team. We're in it for our service. We're in it for you, and we're in it for the country. So regardless of whether we get any accolades, we're still going to perform at the highest level that we have been called upon to perform, to serve. And what I like to do is I like to encourage us, because over the past 20 years, we get a lot of love. Those who didn't, World War II veterans, our Vietnam veterans, our Korean veterans, they didn't get the love that we're getting as we're growing up. And just last weekend, I was at an event, and I'm telling you, this was priceless. There was a 98-year-old World War II veteran there, and he was on the dance floor with his crutches and the wheels, and he's just hanging out with his granddaughter. And my wife points him out. I'm like, oh, I gotta go talk to this guy. This is absolutely wonderful. So I go over, talk to him, get in his ear, and I'm thanking him, telling him, and this is what I truly believe with all those who come before me, is that I'm standing on their shoulders. They're the reasons why I've been so successful. And I'm telling him this, and he's starting to cry and break down. And then I look over at the granddaughter, and she's crying, and I'm like, man, I'm not trying to cry, on the dance floor. But then we start laughing, having a good time, just talking it up. And it was something very, very special to me. And just to see how grateful that 98-year-old World War II veteran was for someone, a younger brother, to come up to him and give him that love. It was just very special. So that's why I'm so successful, is because I feel like I need to stop. That I need to represent that 98-year-old World War II veteran, that I need to represent those who have come before me, that I still need to, it's still in the tank, and I still need to serve in whatever capacity that God puts me in at the next level. My military career and the successes that I've had is just a platform that will help me move to that next level, and this is a part of it. You are a part of my success and my growth, and I really appreciate being able to share this evening with you on this very special day. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have to jump up here? Okay, there you go. So this next person is going to, the Rockwall GOP chair is going to introduce the Texas GOP chairs. We're so happy about that because Sharon has been a part of the Hispanic Club since October 2020. And like I said before, we are happy to call her our friend because she has been nothing but supportive to us. And again, it's called, I know I sound like a broken record, we need to work together, unity, and election 2022, boots on the ground. Please help us with our efforts here in Rockwall, North Texas, South Texas, and West Texas. I kind of feel the momentum is on. Blue counties turning red. I'm very hopeful. I mean, it's a no-brainer because they're feeling the brunt of it. And so hopefully they will remain like that or increase the support there, or it's called Welcome to the Big Tent in the GOP. And so here in North Texas, we got to keep our eye on the ball here and not point our fingers to South Texas, West Texas. This is where it's at for our community outreach. And so Sharon knows that very well, and we've had several discussions about that. So come on up here, Sharon.
What a great turnout. I'm just so impressed with everything that this Hispanic Club is doing in Rockwall. They are setting the bar. Can you see me? That's weird. The bar high. Since I'm but I must start out tonight with the most important thing of this week, and that is that I am now a grandmother. My first grandchild. And on the way out, I'll give you a mint. If you didn't get one, it's a girl mint. Her name is Everest Jade. It's for big mountains. She's got a little tiny thing, but she's got a big name. I just want to say, along with what Edna was saying, unity is what we are all about in the GOP now. Well, we've always been that way, but now it's more important than ever. And so I'm going to do one little plug here. Christmas party, December 4th, GOP. I have sheets that y'all can take on your way out. It's limited seating, so if you want to come to that, you need to get online and get your ticket. I feel very privileged tonight to, I've been in this job for 5 months, maybe a month longer than Chairman Matt, so 2 months longer it is. But I feel very privileged to be able to introduce the state chair to y'all tonight. Chairman Matt Rinaldi represented Northwest Dallas County in the Texas legislature from 2015 to 2019. During his time in office, he was consistently rated among the top two most conservative members of the House by Rice University, Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, Young Conservatives of Texas, and Texas Eagle Forum. According to the Dallas Morning News, Rinaldi was instrumental in strengthening the punishments in the Sanctuary Cities ban and authored and passed into law measures that remove from office public officials who adopt sanctuary city policies, require government contractors and subcontractors to use E-Verify, revoke pensions of teachers convicted of committing sex crimes against students, allow churches to utilize volunteers to provide security services without risking heavy fines, and prohibit any taxpayer money from going to Planned Parenthood. He served as the pro-whip for Texas Right to Life in 2017. Chairman Rinaldi earned his Juris Doctor with honors from Boston University School of Law and a Bachelor of Business Administration degree in Economics from James Madison University. He attends St. Anne's Catholic Parish in Capel with his wife Corley and son Rush. Let's welcome Chairman Matt Rinaldi.
Thank you for that intro. I'm gonna break free from the large podium and come in front if that works. Thank you for having me. This is a great crowd. I try not to get the feedback from the speaker, so I might have to go back. You're fine. Can you hear me? Okay. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And on this Veterans Day, of course, thank you for letting me join you in honoring our veterans. I honestly can listen to Floyd's training stories all day. I mean, really. This is quite a crowd, and it's the energy that I've been seeing across the state has popped up in every area of the state, even traditionally Democrat areas. And it's true. I mean, we will have a red wave in 2022, and it's awesome. I think in the last month, I've been on the road to a new club pretty much every single day. I know I've put 14,000 miles in my car in 3 months, plus gotten gold status on American Airlines just in the 3-month period. So this is like the last stop until the holidays, so my wife's very happy, and I'm very tired. I remember it was like 2 weeks ago, I was at an event, and I was just been traveling and was out of it, and they were introducing me, and they're like, we have a great speaker tonight, and the thought actually went through my head, oh, I picked a great night to come. I'm just tired. But no, thank you, I appreciate it. I was actually up in D.C. last week for the election in Virginia, and the energy was absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's a sign of what's to come. I think the energy behind the Republican Party with a strong message going into 2022, and the fact that the Biden administration and Democratic Party have absolutely destroyed our economy, destroyed our schools, destroyed the very fabric of our country. And now it's not something that we can't put back together. I know we can't. We can absolutely put it back together if we have the will. But people are seeing across the country and across Texas that we're absolutely on the wrong track. Here in Texas, for example, we have an opportunity. We have 33% of the population of Texas approves of the job Joe Biden's doing. That's 25% of independent voters approve of the job that Joe Biden's doing. And in fact, among Hispanic voters, there's approximately 35% across the state of Hispanic voters approve of the job Joe Biden's doing. And even among African Americans, a group that typically votes over 90% Democrat, Joe Biden had only a 56% approval rating among African American voters. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity because people don't like Joe Biden. They don't like the extreme Democratic Party and the ultra-left Democrat Party that it's become. And we need to be the alternative. So we saw that in Virginia with a strong message, a message focused on parents, on families, a message rejecting the divisive identity politics of the Democratic Party and saying that people of all backgrounds are going to come together to save the America we love for our children. That's our message going into 2022. And that's a winning message, and that's a positive message, and that's one that we need to carry to every precinct in Rockwall County, everywhere across the state, because it worked in Virginia. In Virginia, they saw Republicans got a greater percentage of the African American vote than in any election since 1977. And in fact, this mostly came from African American women whose share of the vote doubled. Republican share of the vote doubled. Among Hispanic voters, Youngkin won the Hispanic vote in Virginia. And we're going to win the Hispanic vote in Texas. And we see that in the Valley. In 2020, there were two districts held by Democrats in the Valley that voted for Democrat state reps that voted for Donald Trump for president. And each of those two districts voted for Hillary Clinton 4 years earlier over 60%. One of them nearly 70%. We are seeing shifts in the Hispanic vote that we've never seen before towards Republicans because we're getting our message out. We're getting our message out that Republicans are the parties of working families. They're the parties of parents. We're the party that wants to save the America that we all grew up in. And we don't want to change it into something that doesn't even resemble that. And that's so important. So in Virginia, we won. We won a state that Joe Biden carried by 10 points in the last election. But that wasn't the only place. We saw it elsewhere in the country as well. This isn't an isolated instance. In Pennsylvania, we won every single statewide office on the ballot in the state of Pennsylvania and took the Supreme Court there. This is my favorite one. In Buffalo, New York, in the Democratic primary, a AOC, ultra-progressive, defund the police leftist won the Democratic primary. She was the only person on the ballot last week in Buffalo. She lost with 41% of the vote. That was how it went for Democrats last year. And here in Texas, we took a House district. It was the only House district on the ballot. House District 118 in the San Antonio suburbs. It's a 73% Hispanic district that Joe Biden won by 14 points. And we won it by 2 points and gained a House seat. And across the state in local races, parents came out to the polls in massive numbers. Not only Republicans, Democrats, some Democrats and independents alike came out to oust board members who support teaching our children in schools that they're born racist because of the color of their skin. And in Cypress Fairbanks ISD, that was the main issue. 3 school board members flipped races against incumbents, took over the school board. on that issue. And in Southlake, you might remember earlier on this year in Southlake, national news, slate of 3 school board members, a mayor, and a city councilman were up for election. All of the challenger candidates won with 70% of the vote. Well, that was a surprise. They were ready for us this time. And the Republican Party of Texas was involved in this race. And we supported the challenger. And you know what? We won that race too with 65% of the vote on election day on the same issue and ousted the incumbent in Southlake. In House District 118, the Republican Party of Texas walked to or called 6,000 voters in that district trying to get out the vote. And other Republican groups were united in that effort as well. So together with this enthusiasm, with people on the ground actually working in these races, with the Republican Party of Texas, with your county party, working hard to turn Texas even redder in 2022, I think we can have a huge year. And I think we're going to. And we're going to push back the tide of Democrats and what they're doing to this country and to the state where they hold power. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing as a state party to help that effort. Well, first of all, we're undergoing a victory effort, which, just to give you an idea of the size of this effort, in 2020, which is a presidential year, so it'll be a little less, our victory project is the boots on the ground who get out the vote effort, voter registration, walking from house to house, selling our product. And last election, $25 million came through the state party in the last 2 months before the election. So massive effort for the Victory Project. We're going to be having a similar effort this year. The Republican National Committee is focusing on Texas. We want to win it and put it out of reach for Democrats going forward. So our victory effort will be robust. We currently have 20 people employed on the victory effort, many of them district employees, communications, data people, and we have so far I'm going to give you the 2 week ago figure, so we've done more since then. As of 2 weeks ago, we block walked about 85,000 houses. We called about 25,000 more, and we're not stopping. So that's what we're doing in the victory front. Of course, you can get as many votes as possible. If you don't count them correctly, it doesn't matter. So we have a robust voter election security effort, and that's being headed by Melissa Conway, from formerly of Texas Right to Life, and she's going to have about 10 employees under her specifically dedicated to that effort. We're going to be looking at voter rolls. We're going to be sending teams on election day to areas where there's hot spots that are needed, such as Harris County this past election. I'm sure Dallas will be a big hot spot as well, and Bexar County in the Valley. But we want to do is, for your local candidates, you can't afford to have your lawyer on retainer in case there's a problem. We're going to be that help. And the national party is helping to fund it. It's focusing on the state. So we're also doing candidate recruiting in areas, not like Rockwall. Rockwall's pretty Republican. You guys are doing a good job here. But over in Dallas, sometimes have problems finding candidates because we haven't won many county races in the last 10 years. But we're going to be recruiting because we want candidates in these areas. So when we have a wave election, there's candidates in there. When we flip districts, we don't want there to be only a Democrat on the ballot. And not only that, we also want our message to get out. I don't care how blue the district is. Look at the amount of effort Democrats spend trying to censor us on social media, at work, everywhere else. Why would we censor ourselves by not putting candidates in those areas? We're currently undergoing an effort that's being headed up by one of our county chairs over in Jefferson County to recruit as many candidates as possible in these races so we have them. So that's what we're doing for the election, in the run-up to the election, and obviously as we ramp up, we'll be going pretty hard. Right now we're fundraising, we're getting prepped. We do have our district people on the ground currently block walking. We'll be doing more of it going forward. So if you guys want to volunteer, I would volunteer with your county chair, of course, But if you want to do election integrity, let me know or send an email to our state party, and I'll connect you with the state election integrity person, because we're putting people on the ground who want to volunteer as well. But winning elections is about boots on the ground, but it's not the only thing. You need a brand, a strong brand that you're actually selling. You can go door to door and sell a product, but it isn't about going to the door. It's about having a good product to sell, which is why we have to win elections. But we also have to turn those electoral victories into policy victories once we win those elections. Sometimes have problems with the second part. But the state party wants to have a role in it. We want to have a role in messaging and letting you know what's happening to your legislative priorities that you pick at our convention. And we want you to be able to trust the Republican Party of Texas in our messaging, and when we tell you what's happening with those priorities and what we need to do to get them over the finish line. And we're also, on the other end, working with legislators to get those priorities over the finish line as well. I'll give you an example. On the SREC recently near unanimously passed a resolution opposing vaccine mandates. And we've sent a public letter to the governor asking him for an executive order banning vaccine mandates and to add it to the then ongoing special session. The governor listened. He responded within 24 hours and issued an executive order and added vaccine mandates to the goal. It's important to have a grassroots with a voice in a party organization. And I want to feel like you have that voice. And what we're talking about are the topics that you care about. So when you see our emails, we're talking about vaccine mandates, or earlier on when we were looking at constitutional carry or a heartbeat bill and messaging those issues, I want to make sure that we're adequately messaging to our elected officials, working with our elected officials to get those over the finish line, and letting you know what happens when they don't or when they do. So this past session, we've had a pretty good record at advancing our priorities. We passed constitutional carry, our number one priority for a number of years. It's a big one. We passed the heartbeat bill. It's been saving lives across the state of Texas. I know my wife's on the board of a crisis pregnancy center in Dallas, across from the largest abortion clinic in the area. They're at 15% capacity now since the heartbeat bill went into effect. It's fantastic. Third, passed what you guys just passed is Constitutional Amendment 3, preventing the government from shutting down our churches again. And fourth, an election integrity bill that, ironically, the Democrats fled to kill an election integrity bill and then came back to pass a stronger version of the election integrity bill. So a little assist there from the other guys. But and now I want to point out there is a problem with the election integrity bill that needs to be fixed, and the governor, lieutenant governor, President Trump, and the Republican Party of Texas have called on the legislature to fix it. And we're still working hard to get that part fixed. But apart from a penalty that was brought from a felony to a misdemeanor that should be brought back, it's a pretty strong election integrity bill. And once that's fixed, it will be a very strong election integrity bill that we will need to revisit next election, because it's like playing whack-a-mole. You pass an election integrity bill, deal with the security issues, and they find other security issues. So we do need to keep up on it, but very big victory for us here in the state of Texas. Now, as far as victories go, we've had more victories than we've had in a very long time. But, I tell you the Cowboys score 40 points in a game. It's good, but what's the other team doing? Yeah. The Democrats have had many victories, and we know this because the last year and a half have been rough for many of our families. Economically, we've seen inflation hit levels we haven't seen in 30 years. Attacks on the working class. When food prices go up, some foods by 30% in the past year, that hurts families. We see our schools turn from education centers to indoctrination centers in many areas of the state. And we've seen a Department of Justice that's been weaponized against parents who simply wanted involvement in their child's education. Democrats have had victories, and their goal seems to be to tear down the fabric of this country. So what does that mean? That means we need more victories, and we can't stop. When we pass constitutional carry, we need to move on to the next victory and pass a heartbeat bill. We pass a heartbeat bill, we need to call a special session, we need to pass a ban on vaccine mandates. And then, you know what we'd have to do then? We have to move on to the next thing before they can even react. Because that's what the Democrats do, and they've done it to great success. And look at when we've done that, for example. Last session, the heartbeat bill has been the target across the country, right? But do you hear anything about constitutional carry? No, because we moved on to another victory afterwards. That's what we need to do. We need to fight to win, and I think that's what Republicans think are lacking. We're energized, but we need to fight to win, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to work with our legislators in order to get them in the same mentality as well. Let's win some battles when we win elections, and that's very important. So we have a historic election coming up, and we need your help. We need your time. We need your treasure. This is going to be a big one because you see what Democrats can do when they have power for extended periods of time, and our country's at risk. Now, the interesting thing is when countries are in an upheaval or a revolution throughout history, you see the people who are involved in it at the time have no idea that they were in such a pivotal period in that history till after, when you look back. I can guarantee you we're in one of those periods now. And your descendants 100 years from now will be looking at 2022 and this time in history. And they'll be learning about it in schools. Schools that resemble America, because I think we're going to win. But they'll be learning about it. And they'll learn about what their ancestors did. They'll learn about what we did. So I guarantee you're making history right now. This is the time in your life when you get to make history. So please do it. Sign up, volunteer, donate, and I look forward to fighting with you over the next year and a half. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Any questions?
That's not a question. You have to phrase it in the form of a question. Just kidding. You got to say rhinos. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Matt, who is your person that's involved at the election integrity level with the Secretary of State? Do you know?
What do you mean with the Secretary of State?
Well, in the Secretary of State's office, isn't that where the election officer is?
Well, the Secretary of State runs elections for the state. We just appointed a new Secretary of State. It was a very good appointment by Governor Abbott. The guy is a very strong election hawk, and I was very satisfied with that appointment. Our election integrity person is Melissa Conway. She's employed by the RNC, offices out of our office, and is working with us on putting together an election integrity strategy going forward. What we'd like to do is start as early as possible, and we're trying to get the people employed as early as possible so that we can start looking at voter rolls and doing things so we're not, just waiting until election day to do it.
Okay, I was worried about the guy. There's a guy there by the name of Keith Ingram. Who
In the Secretary of State's office?
Yes.
Okay.
That has been giving the Democrats a lot of waivers.
Okay. I'll let Melissa know
Okay.
and look into it. Yes, sir.
Since we know all these crooked counties all over the country, and it's not that many, is anybody in the Republican Party here or nationally that's working to get teams to those places to try to watch those places?
Yes. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. That's what the effort's for. And we're focusing on areas like Texas where in the statewide tally that could have an effect. So the RNC is focusing on our state. So what are you
We're
doing?
gonna win Texas. We need to send Texans somewhere else, maybe with an
No.
attitude.
No, we need them here. So what they'll do is they'll send people from like Idaho, where you're talking about like a 60% margin, and they'll send people from Idaho who want to volunteer here to Texas, or they'll send people from Illinois, where there won't be a statewide race that might be as competitive, and they'll send them to like Loudoun County.
I'll just be argumentative. Who's going to Atlanta, Georgia?
There are people in Atlanta, Georgia. That's one of the focuses
Well,
too. Texas is going to be a focus. Georgia is going to be a focus. You're going to have, pretty much all. Florida is going to be a focus. Actually, Florida may be out of reach with the wave that we're seeing right now. But we're obviously going to focus on the counties where we need it, and Atlanta would be one of them. Yes?
I have a question. Bueno, hey, my question to you is this. On your strategy, as far as for election integrity, are you employing or asking for Hispanic volunteers to go and talk to, the Hispanic community as far as the differences between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? I think I personally think if we were to attack the areas that are Latino, I think it would do the Republican Party very well. Instead of attacking areas, like you said, Rockwall's already Republican, Dallas County's not. Attacking the Hispanic communities like in Grand Prairie, Garland, South Mesquite, those areas, and just going door to door, boots on the ground and telling them.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
Completely agree with you. You don't want to neglect the heavily Republican areas for get out the vote, because getting out the rural areas in places like Rockwall is going to be a big thing. We are focusing on Hispanic areas. Here's what we're doing. We're opening we've already opened in 3 areas. We did Laredo, trying to think of the Laredo, McAllen, and San Antonio. We opened 3 community centers where we're basing our ground efforts off of, but also a place where we can bring people in from the community, all in Hispanic areas, focusing on outreach to Hispanic areas. That paid off in 118, where we flipped a Biden plus 14 district. So it worked in one area. We're hoping to replicate that in other areas as well where we have them. Here in North Texas, we opened one in Coppell this past week, which is focused on the Asian American community. We have a huge Indian population in that area, and we're focused on outreach to that group for that center. So we are doing exactly that, trying to reach out to new voters. Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that your letter to the governor asking for a 4th session was a great inspiration for the local executive committee. And so we kind of copied your letter and said that we supported your letter and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's call. Sent that in an email last night, and I've gotten a lot of really great responses in our emails. So you're fully supported in what you're doing with that.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that as well. And you know what? It helps the governor too. It gives him cover when he does call the special session as well. So just by messaging it, by sending it, you're being supportive of the goal that you have, and it helps. I mean, it really does help it bring it across the finish line. When you look at, I didn't think the governor, I didn't think would change his executive order to ban vaccine mandates. He did it within 24 hours. Constitutional carry was a long shot to pass the legislature before you guys got involved, and it passed. Same thing with the heartbeat bill. It wasn't expected to pass. It passed, and it did because of you. This really does help, and messaging is very important in politics in getting action and getting people to move. Anything else? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the heartbeat bill, how successful. You've got early indicators that it is, and you heard the applause for that.
Yeah.
I think maybe we ought to be getting that message out there, because I think there's a lot of folks that would respond even more positively to knowing that that bill is accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and we are doing that. Groups like Texas Right to Life are doing that. And you could tell it's working because of the reaction from the left. And I think the reaction from the left is also sending that message as well, because they wouldn't be so upset if it wasn't working. So I think it's incredibly positive. I saw at least one poll nationwide where the heartbeat bill was supported by a plurality of voters nationwide. And in Texas, I'm sure that's going to be even better. So, yes, sir.
As far as the abortion goes, what about the pill, abortion pill?
Yeah.
I went to something 2 weeks ago. It's becoming the biggest abortion here in the state.
It is, and
it's very dangerous too, not just for the abortion part.
Yeah, and you're gonna put me on the spot because there was a bill passed during special session dealing with just that, prescribing abortion.
For legally, but these are coming in from out of country to the state.
Yeah, it was you can't mail it. But I know you're going to have an illegal drug problem no matter what.
It's not illegal because they're doing Zoom calls with doctors, and doctors are prescribing it and sending it from overseas.
Yeah, but the new bill just dealt with mail order drugs, pills, prescriptions of Plan B. So now you have to enforce it. I mean, with any law like this, you have to enforce it.
My next question is there a way to enforce it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they made it illegal. Yes, sir.
So my comment about rhinos was, we need to make sure that we vet the candidates that we're going to be sending up. Besides just having an R next to their name, that they actually have their priorities in line with the legislative priorities, and that they are going to enforce and vote the way that we, the people who have brought these up, and the legislative priorities were brought up through all the sessions. So what is the GOP doing at the state level to make sure, or are we just working with the precincts and everyone else?
No, I mean, we have a statewide messaging strategy on each of these priorities so that when it dies, you know where it did, and you can do the postmortem on it. You know, it isn't the job of the Republican Party to, go out and advocate in the primary for a candidate or to attack Republican candidates, so we're not going to do that. But what we're going to do is tell you the truth. Tell you what happened to those priorities, and you can do what you want with that information. I just want you to be able to trust the information coming from us. One thing I want to point out too is very important to do in the primaries. Elect the best candidates you can in the primaries, the strongest conservatives. I challenged an incumbent to get my House seat in a primary and won. So absolutely see the benefit of that. However, I've seen a lot of people who are the conservative choice in the primary get in office and do exactly what the person they beat did, unfortunately. Yep. And you see that all too often. And I always think of a quote by Milton Friedman. The goal of politics isn't necessarily to elect the right people. It's to get the wrong people to do the right things. And that's exactly what we're talking about with advocating for our legislative priorities, with messaging, with using friction to get things over the finish line. That's why it's so important. Don't give up if your guy loses in the primary, because you can still get the guy who you didn't support to do what you want if it's politically beneficial for him. And let me do two more. Let's do Morgan. I'll do you, sir, and then the last one.
Senate Bill 8 just, the horrific bill, Senate Bill 8 just passed. The governor signed it on the 4th. It's a horrific bill. It needs to be repealed. Is there any chance of that happening?
No. Why do you think it's horrific? Because of the contract provision relating to vaccines? Okay.
No, the government control, federal government control over the state of Texas.
Because of that.
I mean, he needs to be tried under Amendment 10.
Right. Okay. So, I if you know me, I will tell you when I think something's terrible, and just because I disagree with you doesn't mean you're not right. I would just say I disagree. I don't think SB 8 was terrible. It was a grant of federal money with a contract provision that said that it had a general contract provision that whoever signs this contract will, whichever contractor that the state works with, will abide by all applicable federal laws, regulations, and executive orders.
Yes.
Right. So it says applicable, right? So
yeah.
If a law is
applicable,
well, what I'm saying is if a law is applicable, it applies anyway. If a law is illegal, you're not required to abide by an invalid or illegal contract provision. So if a vaccine mandate ban is legal, the contract provision doesn't supersede the law. So here's the deal. In short, yes, it says you will apply by all applicable executive orders, including vaccine mandates. I would take the federal money and say, there, the vaccine mandate is not applicable because it's illegal. Thanks for the money.
It doesn't always go that way.
No, it doesn't. I'd rather the provision not be in there, but it isn't like the governor signing it isn't betraying anybody. I think that's the thought in his head as well, and I sure hope it is. But last question.
Well, just as a comment, it doesn't hardly matter sometimes whether they have an R or a D after their name. And sometimes in a primary, you're so sure, this person is going to do what they say they're going to do, what they stood up at a meeting and said, or to your face and said, I'm going to do this. And they get to Austin or to Washington, and they turn, and their famous statement to you is, you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then proceed to do. But they are public servants.
Yeah.
Therefore, we put you in office, you hold their feet to the fire. When they don't do, you say, just like you were talking about candidate recruitment, then you find somebody else or that person that they defeated that you really think will come back, and you get out there and you do the boots on the ground and you get them elected. They don't have to stay in office unless you just say, oh, we voted, now we're through.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I'll end it on this, but yeah, when you come into office, they have some orientation for legislators, which it isn't an orientation at all. You don't learn anything there. They basically just use it to try to socialize you into the group. And you walk in this huge building with pink dome, and it's just, it's awe-inspiring, right? It's like celebrity fantasy camp within like two blocks of the Capitol, where everybody knows who you are because they're all lobbyists. And people, they get a big head sometimes when everybody knows your name, and that they don't want to lose that. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So what you guys have to do is put social pressure back home, because they got to come back home eventually, and that's uncomfortable too. And I can tell you, every single person there knows everybody in their district who influences 20 or more people. I know, because we'll be voting on bills, and they'll look at their phones and they'll say, "Oh boy, Beth's upset at me" or something, and they know and they react to it. I remember, and I'll leave you with this, of how you can make a difference. Again, make it politically profitable to do the right thing, even if your person doesn't win, and they will do it. I remember I was in the Joe Straus session where Scott Turner was running for against Joe Straus for Speaker. I was supporting Scott Turner, and there was an individual who was a state rep in a desk by me, and he was going to vote for Joe Straus. I know he was. And there was a block walker who walked for his campaign who was up in the gallery. And I looked, and she was staring at him. And he looked up, and he was looking at her. And you could see the moment where he switched his vote in his face. And he hit the button for Scott Turner at that moment. So I could tell you, you guys do make a difference. I've seen it. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thanks. That was great. So before we go on to the rest of the program, I know that y'all have heard this story for 22 times. Okay, so this is going to be 23 times. Because I love this story, and there's some new people, new audience here. So here's the deal. I'm going to bring up Alma McClintock and Betsy Gallagher in a minute. And let me start off with Betsy Gallagher, Victor Carrillo. It started off with Betsy and I wanted a Latinos for Trump cap, and Betsy wanted a Make America Great Again cap for her dad. So I stopped by and I met this wonderful lady, Laverne Kennemer. And so the first thing that I said was, the GOP needs to do a better job in outreach to the Hispanic vote. And so Laverne, she goes, yeah, I agree. You're the new president of the Hispanic Club. And so then Betsy is the new vice president, and I know that y'all are confused about that since she's fully Swedish. But and then comes Victor. It was shortly after that. Then came Victor, and then Donna Rollacher. We're so happy with Donna. She's our treasurer. I couldn't have done the treasury part. Doug Roth, Amy, Bobby Galana, Matthias, Susan Aldis, Michael Aldis. We are so happy to have a strong board because this is the way to do it. Okay, so the thing is with me and what we're doing, I was telling Laverne the very first day, one day I'm a recluse, the next day I meet Laverne, and now I'm meeting all kinds of wonderful people. And then I also am a very nice person until I'm not. So that's the 23rd time.
Well, I think that's going to be it for tonight, and I really hope that this has been helpful for you, and I hope you've had a good time being with me. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get the live feed going, but we at least you've got a chance to see what happened tonight on Veterans Day. To all of you veterans, our freedom is not free. We understand that. Thank you so much for serving our country and for keeping us free. We ask that you have a blessed day and a blessed evening, and we will see you next time.